Welcome to the TK Show with the Athletic Bay Area's Editor-in-Chief, Tim Kawakami.
Hey everybody, Tim Kawakami here from Palo Alto, where we especially came down here, got a nice meeting room here at the Simpson Thatcher Law Offices, because we're coming into Joe Lacob territory. We want to talk to Joe Lacob. TK Show, you've been on before, but let's do this in Palo Alto. Let's do this. Right? I'm sitting there waiting for you, and then you see somebody when you're walking in the lobby, and it's a friend of yours. It's your territory. It's good to have you, Joe. Great to have you. You are here with us on TK Show. Good to have you.
Well, thank you. And it is a little easier than meeting somewhere random for me. With traffic in the Bay Area, this is a lot closer.
I just think Warriors are 23-6. We know there's been a little ups and downs, certainly some injuries. What has it been like? Do you find yourself maybe slipping in and out of focus sometimes? Or you're Joe Lacob, so maybe not. How have you felt through this? And now, obviously, they've kind of turned up recently.
No, it's really interesting. This is our 8th year as owners, and excuse me. It never gets old for me. It's very exciting. Bob Myers recently said something to. When describing some of the players' reactions to maybe being a little bored, as some people have suggested early in the season, he said it's only natural. And he said it to our owners group. Maybe you're the same way, not as interested and so on. And I think, I could see some of that, but I don't get that way. I'm pretty excited getting there. I don't jump up and down as much because I know it's a long season, so I try to pace myself.
What have you thought seeing Durant just raise his game with Steph out? I mean, we see it. We know how good he is. That's why you wanted him. I used to write that all the time. This is why they want Durant. But just to watch it happen up close, live, what's that been like for you?
Well, Tim, he is an amazing player. I mean, you can see when Steph's out what a luxury it is to have Kevin Durant. He is just dominant right now. I mean, here he's like the playoffs, like the finals last year. 35 points a game. I mean, what is he? I don't know, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. I mean, these numbers are rather incredible. And it looks like he can score anytime he wants. So I think he's doing a hell of a job as a leader of our team, stepping up right at the right time when we lost Steph and obviously several other players. He's a marvel to watch. He's just an incredible player. He's Omri Caspi the other day said how much he is enjoying being on our team this year. He's never been on a winning situation before, and he particularly said what a pleasure it was to be playing with Kevin Durant. He said the guy is so humble and so great to play with, and I think that sort of also encapsulates, how lucky we are.
You talked about you don't lose focus, you don't get bored. But so, do you view success differently, having won 2 of the last 3, having won 73? A record 73 in the year you didn't, or are you just still gritting and grinding just as much as you were from the very beginning?
Well, I guess I'm a little more relaxed because we've won it a couple times. I feel like we are successful. I feel like we've done it. I don't have the stress of feeling like somehow we have to achieve prominence, achieve significance, achieve something for my partners and everybody. On the other hand, I'm still very competitive and I want to win it again and again and again. And so, we work every single day. Bob and I are very much, I think, of the same cloth. We talk every day about how competitive we are and how we want to see whatever we can do to improve this team. And we did in the offseason. We added 3 guys. We held over 12 and we got 3 new guys. And each of them is making tremendous contributions. And that makes me very happy. But, we know that the rest of the league is catching up with us to some extent. I would say the way I view it is there are 5 teams that are in the running legitimately to win the championship this year. And everyone who says, we're just going to walk to the title, I think that's ridiculous. We're not walking to any title. We have to work really hard to win this thing. In fact, we're going to have to work hard to get to the Western Finals.
Okay, Houston, San Antonio, Cleveland, Boston. Those are the 5.
I think so. Yeah. And I don't want to. I don't want to get in trouble with anybody else by saying they're not capable, but those are the 5 that I think most people would say really are the teams that look like they have a legitimate shot to be a contender to win the championship.
Let's go back to that summer a little bit. I've talked to you about this a little bit, but you do have Durant, who comes to you guys, not you guys to him, and says, I'll take a discount. And I'll take it's 1 year deal. It doesn't have to be a long-term deal. 6.8, I think, less than he could have got from you if he wasn't going to take the Ultramax. What was your response to that? What is your sense when he told you, hey, I'm going to take less. Other guys are going for every dollar. I'm going to take less.
Well, we certainly didn't ask him to do that, and we wouldn't. He's just too great, and we're lucky to have him. And the fact that he was willing to do that is, obviously a luxury for us. It allowed us to go even more aggressively after some other players, say like Nick Young, as an example. And you have to take it year by year, but certainly for this year, even though we're paying a lot of luxury tax, which we're willing to do, he enabled us to do even more and to have a team that has our total payroll, I think, is $167 million this year.
If you count the tax in there, too.
If you count the tax, yeah.
Now, I asked you this a little before, and I said, did it kind of press you to re-sign Iguodala and Livingston? And you said,
no. I mean, we're going to do what we're going to do, and that was what we wanted to do. So it just, it helped a little bit with me telling my partners just how big the nut was going to be for this year, and it is big. But we have to go for it when you have a chance for a championship. And I've always said we're going to do whatever it takes to put the best team on the court and to have the best fan experience that we can. Everything we do, we like to do to the absolute extreme of what we can afford.
Was there a number you weren't going to go above? Or was there a set line saying, okay, this is all great, but then you start talking luxury tax penalties, we can't go to X number?
No, we never set a number like that. We were determined to go for it this year. And, to the extent that Kevin did what he did, it certainly helped. Would we have done it anyway? Everything we did? Probably.
Now, you've seen the stories that they keep coming out. Look, so this team is headed towards ridiculous numbers, $300 million, $400 million payrolls, if you count in the repeater tax, all the luxury tax numbers with all these potentially huge contracts on the table. Is there a time when you think you might have to say, okay, we have to be reasonable and not re-sign one of our own guys just because the numbers are so big, or is that even on your mind right now?
It's not on my mind right now, to answer your question. Look, I'm sure you've talked to Bob about this, Bob Myers, and we have to take this year by year. This is a whole different world than it was years ago. Every year is a little bit different. I think, look, a lot depends on how well we do this year. If we still think that coming into the summer that we have a chance again to compete for a championship next year, we're going to be very aggressive again. And how big that number can get, I mean, really, we'll have to make our decision at the time, depending on whatever the situation is, and decide whether we're willing to do it or not, whether we think it's worth it. But the answer probably is that we're biased to do what it takes.
I mean, you'll have Klay Thompson up in 2 years. You'll have Draymond up in 3. Do those players in your mind just you're going to keep? I mean, again, I don't want you to negotiate here, but given the realm that they're in.
2 or 3 years is so far away, Tim. It's if I ever think about the future, I'm going to think about next year. Now, we clearly do. I'm not going to sit here and tell you we don't do long-term plans. We do. We look for 5 years in the future. What is our team going to look like? What's it going to afford? Sure, we do that. But we have a lot of different hypothetical ways we can go. And we're going to consider all options. And a lot depends on how well our team is playing, how well the competition's playing. People do age. People do get injured. I mean, a lot of things happen. So it's very hard to sort of be firm and say, this is our plan for next year right now. We don't have that set in stone.
Your guy now, you got 2 championships last 3 years with a record 73 wins, as I mentioned, in the middle there. Been in the finals 3 straight years. You've talked about how it's maybe owners are looked at differently when you win championships, maybe after the first one. But also you talked about Jordan teasing you after you won 73. What's the feeling you get among the other owners right now? Is it different when you walk in there with 2 rings in the last 3 years?
I think that's all calmed down a little bit. It was pretty tough. As you know, when we walked into the owners meeting in Las Vegas, when we had just gotten Kevin Durant, I think I felt like I was a target.
Really? Okay. You actually heard it from some guy?
Oh, in the meeting. Yeah. It was pretty amazing reaction. And, that's just competitiveness amongst owners. I think we all understand that. But That's calmed down. I mean, we're all, these are my competitors, these other teams, but they're also our partners. So it's a very funny construct. And, we have to make sure the league is successful and competitive, and we also have to make sure we're successful and competitive. And those two things sometimes are opposing, and sometimes they're the same. So I don't know. I can't worry about it. I can only worry about our
You
organization.
put the 2 rings up there. That's what Jordan would do. Who gave it to you worst?
It wasn't really. I don't remember who in particular. I'm not going to say, obviously. There's a couple of people that
Western Conference.
I'm not going to go there.
Are you? Do you look back on the last 3 years and think, man, we did everything right? How do you look upon how this happened? And we all know it wasn't a snap of the fingers. We all know it wasn't just, geez, it just all happened overnight. But how do you look at the way things got together to get you on this path to where this team is, the class of league, class of sports?
I mean, to be honest, it's all a big 7-year continuum to me. And there were a lot of decisions along the way. We had plans, and a lot of them worked out. But we had a plan for what we were going to do, and each of these things were incremental, whether it would be drafting a guard to fit with Steph Curry after we made the decision to keep Steph over Monte, right? Mm-hmm. And then Clay was the perfect guy for that. And then it was Iguodala was the right free agent to take us to a next step, let's say. Getting the last 2, buying the 2 second-round picks in the last 2 years were very important to provide a youthful continuum going forward, because you don't want to all of a sudden get old. Getting Kevin Durant was a part of that. So everything that we've done is sort of in a path or a process, if you will, to create what we have. And we have a long-term plan here too. And I tell you, the long-term plan is definitely, we've got a great core. We're going to try to keep it together as long as we can. And hopefully that's a long time. But we do need to supplement that core, and we do need to be aware of how the competition is reacting. You take a look at this year, Houston, no joke, no joke. Boston, team of the future, maybe team of the present.
Team you know pretty well.
Yeah, no joke. Kyrie Irving is a hell of an ad, and they drafted very well, and Danny Ainge has done a heck of a job. I mean, they're the future. And then you look at teams like Milwaukee and Philadelphia in the East, who are definitely coming, right? So it's all changes every year. I like to say to people all the time, when they ask me about this, I say, well, you must feel great about this year. I said, well, I do, but I can't really worry about yesterday. I can't even worry about today. I have to think a little bit about the future and what we're going to be, because they're reacting to us and we need to react to them. So it's a constantly evolving process.
I always write this, is that I know you guys, and you're always looking for that next big move. Now, maybe Durant that was really the big move, and you don't necessarily need to make one like that. But how accurate is that? Are you even sitting there in that room with you and Bob and the
every
other guys?
day?
Yeah, and you're looking at the big names
every day.
I mean,
we're like everybody else. Other teams do it too. We are always thinking, well, how should we evolve this team going forward if this happens or if that happens? You just, you have to watch a little bit how things are going and how the other teams are reacting and how you're playing. And so it's not an absolute, but certainly we have on the drawing board certain ideas, moves that would take us to a next level, maybe differentiate us from how we're playing today. Whether we do them or not, I think will depend on a number of factors.
Something big could happen this summer?
Yeah. I mean, something big can always happen. I wouldn't deny that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you. I do think that the right thing for us last summer was mostly, Steve Kerr would tell you this, to stay as much together as possible, to provide continuity is one of the things that made some of the great San Antonio teams or other teams that have been good in the past very good, because they were together. So I think that was the big thing that was the mission, if you will, for last summer. Add around the edges, right? Now for this summer, we'll see how it goes. Let's see how we perform and how well we age and all those things. But we were looking at various options depending on whatever happens. And there's certainly, we can't be afraid to make a big move. We can't be afraid. If we think we can improve in some way, we'd have to consider it.
You paid Steph Curry the max, whatever, the ultra max. How easy was that decision? Obviously, he means so much to this franchise, but $204 million big contract. Was that easy for you to do?
Very.
Was it ever a question?
No. None at all. He deserves it, and he's one of the greatest players in the game. If not, I mean, I personally think Steph and KD are the two greatest players in the game of basketball. I'm allowed to be biased about my own players, so I know there's some other great players, obviously, but he deserves everything he can get, and he earned it, and he earned the right to be a free agent too. He earned the right to go somewhere else if he wasn't happy, and it's our job to keep him interested, to continue to have a good team, to make sure the environment is something that's appealing to him, and to recruit him just like any free agent any year. And Kevin Durant is actually a free agent this summer.
Yes, he is.
So we have to make sure, it's up to us to make sure he wants to be here.
If he wanted to go year to year like LeBron's doing, would you be okay with that?
Sure. I mean, if that's what he wanted to do, if he wants a long-term deal, then we'll go that way. We'll react to whatever these guys want to do, and they're just so good, right? You can't mess around with that.
Yep. We go back to, everyone talks about, Curry's 4-year, $44 million deal. What a deal that was for you. And it was, obviously, was one of the greatest bargains in recent NBA history. But also, I remember, it was a bit of a risk for you guys at the time. Do you remember your thought process then? Was it like, okay, we're taking a little bet here on this guy? Or was it easy to go 4 years, 44 back then?
I mean, everyone looks back at that and says, what a deal for the Warriors. And in retrospect, absolutely true. But at the time, I will tell you, I mean, it was heavily debated. His ankles, some people said, well, he was never going to be right. He was never going to be able to withstand the rigors of the NBA. Those ankles weren't going to hold up and all that. So I think it was a fairly derived deal at the time that he decided to accept because, given all the risks, he felt it was fair. We felt it was fair. It's just that in retrospect, it clearly was a great deal.
And allowed you to do a lot of other things.
It did.
Yeah.
It did. It absolutely did. And we look. You have to be lucky too.
And when you see that ankle turnover not too long ago, what was going through your mind?
I didn't overreact to it. I mean, these things happen. He knows how to rehab it, and our people know how to rehab him, and we're going to make sure he's very healthy. And I'm 100% convinced he'll be fine. You
guys are being extra careful with these guys. Draymond's.
Sure.
I mean, is that just? Hey, we're going to be 150% cautious on everybody.
I just think I don't know if 150 is the right number, Tim, but we're going to be careful. We're not going to rush these guys back. We want to make sure they're very healthy. We have a luxury. We have a very deep team. I think we have the best team we've ever had, and I think we have the deepest team we've ever had. Maybe the deepest team anyone's ever had. It's possible. It's certainly very deep. And look at without 3 starters, look how well we're playing right now. I mean, it's a testament to our team and how hard these guys are playing and how hard they're focusing, and our coaching staff and to Bob Myers for putting this roster together.
We've seen your coach and staff and others take pretty strong social and political stands. Not so much lately, but certainly within the context of what's going on. Have you been comfortable with them kind of stepping out? And they've drawn some heat, but that's okay. They can take it. Have you, as the owner of this team, been okay with that?
Am I okay with the word owner?
Yeah, that's also too. That's come up too. I
figured that was coming.
I thought that as I was saying that.
Well, let's take one thing at a time. Yeah, I'm totally okay with that. I'm a different kind of guy, maybe compared to some. I believe in transparency. I believe in complete and total communication at all times, interaction. I just think it's something I encourage our players to do and our coaches to do, and they have a voice and they have a right to an opinion. And the only thing that I've ever asked of them is that they be respectful of the NBA and be respectful of our organization. We don't want to put it in a bad light in some way, And I think that they do that. They're really remarkable human beings, and I think it's fine that they do that. I have no problem with it whatsoever.
And the Warriors have kind of been circled as this team is the team out front on these things. You okay with that?
Yeah, I am. I mean, when you're getting this much attention for being who you are, you have to understand that that's going to happen. And people are going to pay attention to every little thing. Everything's magnified. Sure. So people need to be aware of that, whether it be me or one of our players.
You've been pretty good lately, by the way.
I'm getting better.
You can blow past it on this interview if you wish, of course.
It's okay, Tim. I'm really I'm trying. I just think it's one of these things that everything's magnified, and you just have to be aware of that. But other than that, I think we're okay with our guys, being thoughtful and taking a leadership role in certain issues, and I just leave it at that.
Well, let's get to that light years comment, which we've talked about before, and I never really thought much of it because you're supposed to want to be good. You're supposed to want to be better than everybody. You're supposed to want to win. I have had an owner of my company who made some controversy with a statement that people didn't love, but he wanted us to win. He wanted, and that's what I want to be a part of. Having said that, during the season when you won 73 and then lose championship, then win a championship, do you feel like in some ways people are just, other than, okay, they're not saying you're the most brilliant guy in the world, but they're saying there was something
They're
going.
not?
Well, perhaps not. Maybe not exactly like that, but no, there's some understanding though that there was a larger picture of those comments.
Look, I own those comments. I guess at this point, there's no point in going over it. I could sit here and say they were made sort of out of context and not really meant to be. And I've said that story before, which is true. The New York Times Magazine reporter had some access, and I thought took some liberties with comments that were made to friends, weren't meant to be headline comments. However, I did say it, and I own those comments, and I do believe in our organization, and I do believe that we are a well-run organization. I do believe that I hold everybody to a high performance standard, including myself and our coaching staff and our management and so on. And I'm proud of the fact that we are a well-run organization, both on the court and off the court. And whether we're light years ahead or whether we're a little ahead, doesn't really matter. The truth is, everyone understands that we're a good organization. We're trying to be really good every day, and that's really all it is.
Yeah, I might get criticism for this, but when I explained it, when he said that was the year they won 73, and then they signed Kevin Durant, which they had been planning for 2 years. I know, so you can say what you want to say, but there was something going on here. And I didn't see other teams doing that. So I'll just say that this is how I've explained it. This because I know you pretty well. I've talked to you a lot of times. Do you want someone to say, "Oh, we're stupid"? "Oh, we're way behind"? That's my point.
The funny part about that comment was that all the people I know in the business world down here on this peninsula where we are right now, the Silicon Valley, they all thought nothing of it.
Yep. Interestingly, Mike, you don't even know, the Athletics CEO said something very similar.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And business-wise, it was accepted.
Right.
Accepted.
Oh, I do know the comments.
Yes. In the New York Times also, by the way.
Right.
I might point out. But, among other people, obviously took offense to it, and I understand that. But
I think the sports world loves to, the sports media, loves controversy, loves things that they can make something out of a story, out of it. And they actually were the ones that reacted to the comment and maybe put some heat around it. More than the business world. So it is what it is. It's almost become humorous to some extent, I guess. I'm the butt of some jokes.
From your son.
Yeah, from everybody. And, honestly, I can laugh at myself. I think it's pretty funny, too, now in retrospect.
When you get 2 rings, I think it kind of answers everything. What do you think about your guy Mark Cuban talking about maybe running for president? Is that something that other owners talk about, laugh about, and I guess I'll follow that up with, would you ever consider something like that?
Oh, my.
Why not?
I didn't expect this question.
Yeah, well.
I think Mark is a very passionate guy. He's a smart guy and has certainly done a lot in his life. But I don't know about president. I just think... I'm not sure he's serious or not when he talks about it. I don't know him well enough to know. I've talked to him about it, but I don't really know. So I can't really comment much more on that other than I guess anyone can be president, obviously.
Yes.
So maybe it's possible.
Yes. I think the dynamics have changed a little bit.
Things have changed. And so as to me, no, I don't think that's in my future.
Okay.
I'm not.
Just want to
I
clarify.
don't think I'd be very good at it.
It would be interesting. It would be an interesting one.
No.
Hey, what do you think about the media landscape out there? I mean, you have your local deal with Comcast, and we know, but everything's changing. Have you ever thought about, okay, maybe your own platform, your own network somehow? I know a lot of teams are thinking about that. Is that something you can see in the not too distant future?
Well, I think we need to be thinking about those kinds of things. Obviously, we have a deal with Comcast that goes for another decade. So,
and you can reset it though.
Well, there's
right?
there's a reset in there, but
that won't be cheap, is my guess on that one. By the way,
it should go pretty well for us. But I do think that we. I know you're very familiar with all of these things, and so the world is changing, right?
Yep.
And Amazon, Google, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. I mean, all these guys are getting in some way into media rights. Mm-hmm. And how it all plays out is going to be very, very interesting. I don't think anyone exactly knows. Will people go over the top and be their own distributor, if you will, of their games? Or will there just be another set of Comcasts or DirecTVs or whatever? So I don't think that's exactly understood yet, but I do think that we need to be thinking about it every single day. And as a business, I do think of what we're doing as more than just a basketball team. I consider us a sports and entertainment organization. You've seen some of our moves. First of all,
Chase Center.
I think with the changing of the world of media rights, it was important for us to own and control a lot of our local revenues vis-a-vis our arena. Mm-hmm. So owning our arena, while expensive, is probably the right thing to do in terms of controlling those revenues and to building those revenues. That's part of our plan. So yes, it's expensive, but we're gonna have our own arena. We're gonna have we'll be running that arena ourselves. We'll have restaurants inside and outside the arena, and some other ventures as well in and around it. And we, as you saw, just got into esports. We think that has a big future and a great demographic. I don't know exactly yet how it plays, how big it becomes, but I do know that League of Legends is certainly the thing in esports, which is a huge emerging trend. It's the number one thing to be in, so I figure might as well be in that. We applied, we got it, the franchise, and and we're going a very fast start. We've already got our team together, 15 employees. We had big meetings all day yesterday and today. All our guys were at the game last night, even our players, and Kirk is leading that charge, and we think that has a real future. We're getting into NBA 2K, so we're looking at a number of different things that we think can help us over time to create our own platform beyond just basketball.
Do you see a WNBA team playing at Chase Center?
I don't know about at Chase Center. We'd have to look at that because of the size of the arena. You know, a lot of those WNBA teams are playing in smaller arenas now, which I thought they should have 20 years ago. But I do think it's really possible that we could have a WNBA team. It's just, in terms of focus right now, getting this arena opened is such a huge job. Mm-hmm. Esports was a little bit different. We did take that chance and get into that right now because I think it's enormous and has enormous growth going on right now. We didn't think we could wait. We had to do that now. But WNBA, I think it has a future. I think we could be in it.
Okay, how about the Oakland A's? We've talked about this before. You've expressed that you are interested in it generally, in possibly buying the A's. It's John Fisher's team. We all know they're not for sale, but they just had this thing blow up on them. Laney College site, Peralta Community College Board voting not to halt all conversations. Do you make a call? Do you check to see, or do you still remain generally interested if they were for sale?
Well, if they were for sale, we would be interested in certainly discussing it and considering it. I think we have the organization that could make it very successful if we were to get into that. We know how to build an arena, I think. We'll see soon. Mm-hmm. And they do need a stadium. But, it's not our team. It's not my decision, as I've said before, and I totally support John's a friend, and I totally support what he's doing, and I hope he's successful, frankly. The Laney College thing, I guess, from what we all have observed, seems to have blown up or is not doing well. Maybe they'll be able to salvage it. I don't know. But we'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
You still like that Howard Terminal site?
I would say this. I think there are three possibilities. The Coliseum site certainly has to stay in the bucket of possibilities for them. Howard Terminal certainly is available and is a possibility, and the Laney College site, which they decided to pursue, was a possibility. all have their advantages and disadvantages, and we'll see what happens. I certainly think that the mayor of Oakland, I know, is in favor of that. I personally, in the past, have thought it would be a good site for a variety of reasons. Its waterfront location and the fact that there's nobody living around there. I mean, to the constituencies to maybe oppose it, but it has its own challenges. Obviously, there isn't BART there, so John has some real work on his hands to figure all that out and hopefully be successful with it.
You would think though that this team could survive and flourish in Oakland, in the city of Oakland.
The A's?
Yes,
absolutely.
Just because baseball is such.
The East Bay is a big market,
Yep.
and I think there's a great history with that franchise. And it's obvious. The Warriors are moving to San Francisco, which is not far away, but is on the other side of the bay at a minimum. And the Raiders certainly seem to be moving to Las Vegas. So the A's have an opportunity, I think, wherever they decide to land. They do need a new stadium.
All right, Joe. Well, I've asked you this question before, but you have a great list of you can draw upon. So I will ask you, like I ask all my guests, Joe, what's your favorite restaurant? The smile on your face.
This is a tough one. I have to be a little more careful when you've asked me in the past.
Okay.
Because I'm in the middle of choosing what restaurants are going to go on our site in Mission Bay.
Yep.
Where you have 29 different retail locations, of which most will be restaurants. And we've gotten a lot of applications from a lot of different people, a lot of interest. Everything from pizza places to sushi places to high-end restaurants. So I'm going to be careful about saying what is my favorite at this point. Okay. I have a number of favorites, and I'm actually testing out a lot of them.
Ridiculous. Yeah, that must be a tough job, Joe.
It's really tough.
Okay, we'll just take that out of the realm of possibility. All the ones that are applying, like say New York, London, a restaurant that's not going to be in the Chase Center.
I mean, you're going to find this funny, but it's not open anymore.
Okay, that's all right.
The Carnegie Deli in New York.
Oh, I love that one.
It's just a place that for 30 years, whenever I go to New York or went to New York, I would go to. Because to me, that corned beef sandwich was just fantastic. And everyone who knows me says, I have to go to Carnegie before I leave town. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore in New York, so that's a problem. But I have other favorites. I was on a trip to Europe this summer with Nicole, and we went to a number of really great restaurants. And we went to a couple places in what is it? Blanking on the place now, but they were excellent. And so I'm kind of broadening my horizons a little bit.
Okay.
And I can't really say a particular place. I think I have my favorites. Like for breakfast around here, I do go to Stack's.
Okay.
You ever go there?
Oh, I go the one in Belmont.
All right. Yeah, there's one in Belmont.
Yep.
I'm kind of a Stack's fan because
What's your plate there? What do you get?
I get the same thing every time, and it's disgusting.
Okay.
Some people would say. I play basketball, and then I'll go over there after, and I'll get usually the same thing, which is the lox scramble.
Okay. No, I've had that.
Have you?
Yeah.
But then sometimes I add to it and get one blueberry pancake.
Yeah.
Because
those aren't small ones either, by the way.
No, so you can't eat all of it.
You just want to taste. You want to taste.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, no, I'm a Stack's. I'm a steak and eggs guy there.
Are you?
Over easy.
Steak and eggs over easy. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Can I substitute Stack's then for what I was supposed to take you, the French Laundry?
Oh, French Laundry is not on the list here, by the way. We're going to do Kokari. We're going to do Kokari.
I owe you that.
Yeah.
Kokari's a great restaurant.
We'll do Kokari.
Yes, that sounds good.
All right, everybody. That's Joe Lacob giving us plenty of time. Really appreciate this conversation. Glad we could come down here into your territory, and let's do it again.
Sounds good.
All right, Joe. Thanks.